We saw the end of Tom Lynch yesterday at the MCG, didn't we, Kingy? Like, it's been coming towards the end for Tom for a while, I would have thought.
The end of his career?
Yeah.
Why?
Have you watched him this year?
Well,
how frustrated he is.
I've pretty much seen every minute of footy for about 10 years. Yeah.
How he physically just can't do it anymore, and the frustration that he is playing with. What is the use of Tom Lynch? Now, the use of him on paper sounds great. He's going to be a leader. He's going to mentor the young forwards coming through. He's going to take a good opposition defender. All of that on paper sounds great until he's been out there. And he's been none of that. It's been a frustrated player all year. It's the second time he'll be suspended this year. He's in the Hall of Fame for arguing with umpires this year. There's no doubt about that. And physically, he can't do it anymore. There's nothing worse than, like we're seeing with Nat Fyfe, a player that goes on 1 year too long. So I thought it had been coming to this. I said it a month ago, and seeing him melt down and lose his mind at the MCG yesterday, surely that. And look, unbelievable career. That goes without saying, clearly. And you send him off on the right note. But you think there's still life left in his career, do you?
I think you never need leaders more than where Richmond are at right now.
Well, leader is a term.
He's a leader.
Sounds good. How?
He's a leader. Monday to Friday, 2 hours a game day. He is a leader. Absolutely, 100% he's a leader.
When's the last time you've seen him show leadership on the field?
What do you mean?
I see a lot of arguing. I see a lot of frustration.
He takes the heat off these young forwards who are just learning their way, that are in their first half a dozen games of footy. He's taking all the physical trauma that those guys... Imagine those young kids having to play on Sam Taylor. They just go through...
It couldn't be any worse.
What do you mean?
Well, he didn't touch the footy yesterday in a half.
Yesterday he's had a stinker. He's had a stinker yesterday.
Not for the first time this year.
But there's more to his role at Richmond right now than just kicking six every week. I mean, if you're expecting that, you're in Disneyland.
Not asking him to do that. But what I'm asking him is to do what Jack Gunston is doing in terms of his on-field stuff and actually be a leader and actually be in a position physically where you can perform. I don't think he's any of that. And what we saw yesterday should be a reminder that going on too long sometimes is a detriment to your footy club versus just, okay, let's just give contracts out to these great players because they've earned it. Well, how's that looking for Nat Fyfe right now, doing his calf in the halftime?
He's a different discussion than Nat Fyfe.
How so?
He's a different discussion. Because he plays a position that the flow-on effect for that next level of player is far more dramatic. For those young kids who are just starting out as key position players, they've got to protect them a little bit. They've got to protect their bodies. They could just throw them to the wolves. Be a disaster.
Yeah, I think there's other players out there that could play a similar role that wouldn't be throwing haymakers on the MCG.
He hasn't done it regularly. He hasn't.
It's his second. He's got a reasonable rap sheet.
Has he?
Yeah, I think so.
I don't think he does.
I think the average person out there would go...
The average person? What's the tribunal say? I'm not worried about the average person.
Well, two in a year is pretty...
I don't think he's got a rap sheet at all.
Well, 2 in a year is pretty solid, isn't it?
Yeah, but that's not a massive rap sheet, though, is it? A rap sheet would be a Dermot Brereton style or a Reece Jones style.
Well, I don't think you get those.
Cam Mooney, good morning,
I don't think you get those in 2025.
Rap sheet means a list of
yeah, when's the last time you saw a haymaker thrown at the MCG? A haymaker off the ball. No one's been stronger on head knocks than you.
No good.
When's the last time you've seen someone? I reckon it was 2004 for me. Throw a round arm haymaker.
Yeah, and he'll pay the price for that, and so he should. It should be 5 weeks, and then you work out internally at Richmond. Is it worth continuing next year?
So is that the leadership you're after? A 5-week suspension off the back of already missing?
Mate, no one's stronger on this stuff than me. But I think to call him to say that he's not a leader is not right. He's been a leader. I don't think he's showing. Club.
No, he has been. I don't think this year he's showed any leadership at all.
Any leadership at all?
On field. Oh, I can't speak to the off-field stuff.
Pretty good against the Dogs a couple of weeks ago, wasn't he? I think he's taking in his role. You've got to judge this role a bit different to the Nate Fyfe discussion, which is another midfielder. I think he can replace another midfielder easily.
So is the Jack Gunston discussion fair?
They play a different game, Jack Gunston.
I know,
and Tom
but
Lynch,
they play a different game, but they play the same position. They're a similar age. Gunston will be older, and they're required to do the same thing and show the leadership on field that you're speaking of.
I was questioning the return of Jack to Hawthorn, but Jack and even Luke Bruce to that point, their leadership and their impact on these young players has been profound. I don't think it hurts anyone to have these guys around to show them the ropes.
Well, it does if you melt down. It does if you melt down. But
he hasn't melted down every week.
And your body language. I don't know. His body language has been poor for a lot of the year, and I think that does impact negatively on the group. But anyway, we disagree on that.
He's been giving away a few free kicks. There's no doubt about that.
And 5.5's a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
And a report.
Sandra Sully.
Yeah.
But I do think you still need these guys. You still need. There's nothing wrong with being overly physical. Now, what he's done yesterday, he'll pay a huge price for. I'm saying 5 weeks. I don't know what your thoughts are. Do you think it's at that level?
Well, the Matrix doesn't say that it will be.
No, I know. I hate the Matrix.
We all do. So I think you send it to the tribunal and you sort of work out what was going on. He's just so lucky that he didn't make contact properly. And the other thing is that the Noah Bolter discussion, I think it's impossible not to link the two with what that footy club has been through. I know it's off-field, but to do that after the situation they've been in is just mind-blowing to me for Tom to go down that path.
The feedback coming through, I know that Tom, a lot of people are not in love with the way he plays, and he's a hard man. We often talk behind the scenes at Fox, and we had a discussion a couple of weeks ago in between games. Who's the one player in the game at the moment that you wouldn't like to stand in the hole in front of? And Tom Lynch was probably 4 of the 10 nominations, right? That's the style of player he is. He's not here to be loved by everyone. These guys are, in a sporting sense, they're killers, right? They want to impact physically. They want to command their area. It's not going to be popular to the average fan. But that doesn't mean you've got a rap sheet.
Yeah, well, he does this year. Is the point. Adam Uze spoke about it in his post-match presser. I was a little bit underwhelmed by what he said.
Obviously, in the moment, as a coach, you're disappointed because a few of them look like we've got possession and we're getting out and we finally look like we're about to execute and his frustration spills over. But in saying that, we're going to see clarification on the marking contest because it happens to him. He's such a big man and they do scrag him and he's feeling like he's getting held. And then he doesn't. And then the ball goes down the other end and we give 3 free kicks in aerial contest in one passage of play. So we've got to look at all those things and we've got to help him through that. No excuse with his response, but I can understand his frustration.
Yeah, I'm not sure linking the treatment to a haymaking King hit style attempt at the MCG was the right time for Adam to do that, particularly with everything the club's been through this year.
You know, I get sick of these discussions from coaches, right? And they're entitled to defend their man. I love it, right? All right, Adam, no worries. Show us 10. Show us the evidence of the 10 actions you're talking about, where he was held, scragged, dragged. Because we went back to look. Jay Clark did it last night. There wasn't very many that are outside the normal. I just think that I just get sick of these flippant sort of defensive remarks. They weren't holding him. He dropped a couple of his own poor form. I just think this is all on the player. Support him, yep, behind the scenes, but don't bother with that rubbish publicly.
Send us your thoughts, 0433 98 11 16. Where do your first thoughts take us to now? What do you think was the second biggest talking point from the weekend? I'm hesitant to bring up North because you'll tell me that I'm piling on again. I thought that was a big story, and Melbourne probably the other one out of it. Often we focus on the losers, and they were the 2 biggest losers from the weekend.
Yeah, I thought the Dogs Sydney game was a belter. I'd like to get to that as quick as we can because it was probably the most aggressive game of footy we've seen for a while.
Yep.
It was a great watch. The Kangas are a story. There's no doubt about that. The way that we're getting these wild swings where all of a sudden they can't defend. It's very aggressive. There's no pressure on the ball carrier, and they just get through. So that's a discussion, no doubt.
So a couple of things with that one. So the midfield getting beaten as badly as that, there's no excuse for that aspect of the game to go so poorly because it's not personnel. When you look at Ward, McKenzie, Newcomb, Nash versus Parker, Sheasel, LDU, Simpkin, whoever was through there, Wardlaw in the first quarter until he was knocked out. That can't happen. Cherry versus Meek. So personnel-wise, that can't happen. So that's clearly method of the way that they're doing things there, and the lack of, I thought, spread from North Melbourne's midfield. They just got outspread. And the other one was just, I thought the defensive display from their half forwards, North, and the Giants have built their whole system around the way that their small forwards defend. I thought they went to sleep so often, side by side with Carl Amon or side by side with Impey, and then bang, they've put 5-10 metres on them in the space of 2 or 3 seconds, and that led to some of Hawthorn's ball movement. So I don't know. Is it a group that got comfortable with themselves? I just don't know if Alistair Clarkson really buys into the defensive aspects or has a method that is required to be successful now. And that's why I continually question whether, and the impact that Clarko is having now. Others will say, give him time. It's year 3, whatever it is. Luke Hodge and I have punched on about it all year. But when you see defensive displays like that, you go, I'm not sure the message is getting through.
Well, when you give up 86 points in a half, you open yourself up to this sort of criticism and this feedback. But they want to be an assertive defensive six, so they want to stand in front of their opponents and expect the pressures on the opposition ball movement, or particularly exiting stoppage. That's where they want to be their most aggressive, to intercept and win the ball back. Pressure rating of 155 in the first half. They walk the ball out of all areas. It's not even just the half forwards, it's the mids, it's all of them. So I look at the midfield selection. This is why I think they overlook Will Phillips too quick. At least he does put pressure on.
Well, he tackles.
And he's responsible for a man when they drop into general flow. So the mix needs to shift. Or you know what? You've got to get the senior core leaders in there, the star factor players, if you like, to do more without the footy. Look, why is it okay for some to just wander around and not tackle and chase?
Why can Zerha not go centre bounce? Is that clearly he's can't compete for long enough? But why with everything that he's got, sort of Bo McCreary style at Collingwood, it's a similar athletic profile, I would think, and there's others. Give me some aggression around the ball with Zerha. Well, is he not prepared enough? Has he not done the work with his tank? Why does that not happen?
Yeah, it's a good question, and again, I haven't got the answer for that. But if it's not working, you've got to make change.
Change it up.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that. Look, my man Pinky can't do it all, Cornsey. He just can't do it all. He's been a revelation down back. He just can't do it all.
He has.
Come on, guys.
Just if you're doing one, bring it to the front. And the amount of over the back goal that's
the problem, isn't it? They're standing in front and they're looking second rate because the ball movement against is so quick. So Clarko's got some work to do. I just wish they'd go back to back shoulder defensive play. Just be in the fight when the ball comes down. 1-on-1, keep it simple.
We'll hear from Clarko a little bit later on in our new segment. But Thursday night, I mean, this can get big on them pretty quickly. This is a big night for the club. They don't get the access to the primetime stage. They've asked for it. They've really pleaded for access to Thursday night primetime stage. It is a significant. Will you tell me how significant a milestone it is for the footy club and celebration?
Well, it's a celebration. I'm not expecting them to win. Is it?
No one is. But we can't have the first half that we had. Like there needs to be some fight in this group for this game.
I think there'll be times where the Dogs just get hold of them. Simple as that. I mean, that's rational.
Yeah.
But if you want more than that, then I think you're entitled to ask for just a red hot go. I just want a red hot go. Just an effort that makes you proud, regardless of the scoreboard.
This is my man Luke Beveridge speaking after their win over Sydney on Friday night in a very good game of football, the game of the weekend. Thought Sydney were excellent with the challenges that they had in front of the ball and behind the ball with some of their key defenders and their lack of key forwards. But, some stars put on a show, including Isaac Heaney.
What about Heaney? Like, seriously.
Fraser. That was incredible.
Against the Tide to do what he did. It was Heaney and Bont, and then Fraser just went bang. The game was crying for someone else to do something. It's as good a performance as you'll see. The Norton Darcy thing, I know we're going to get to Norton later, but what he is now allowing him to do, to work up to the wings.
Much better.
He's the stay-at-home.
From Aaron, much better.
12 marks, a PB.
Can he do it for more than every 6 weeks? will be the challenge.
Well, it's
for
a
him.
different look now that Darcy's down there, isn't it? And you've got West in really good form. I just feel for the Dogs. Waitman's the one. I mean, Waitman's the extra that you can't cope with. That one more quality player. So they're a bit stiff there. But no, I thought it's the best game I've seen Grundy play for some time.
Yeah.
He was terrific with his tap work, and the 5 goals from forward 50 stoppages is a huge number, and it was on the back of what he was doing, really.
Yep. No, he was terrific. Just don't put Darcy in the ruck. That's all I'm saying. I don't care who it is.
They don't jump. Mate.
I know, but he was cooked. He was wrestling Grundy, and he was absolutely spent. So he dominates the first half.
I don't think they had a choice. They did. They didn't English go off. It went off for a while.
Put Norton in there. Find someone. Put someone in there other than the most valuable player that we've seen since Wayne Carey. And he's had 2 touches in the second half because he's absolutely gassed. Don't put him in the ruck. That's all I'm pleading with.
I think you're missing some of the craft, though. What they're doing.
There was no craft with Darcy. He got monstered.
What they're doing
in
with
the ruck.
What they're doing with the switching and you never really know whether English or Darcy's in the ruck is getting them goals.
On this occasion, English was off the ground. Darcy was rucking. I'm telling you to find someone else other than he's not.
He's a ruckman.
He's the most valuable player we've ever seen since Wayne Carey, and he's in the ruck.
What about the ground? What a disaster! What a balls up.
So we had this discussion on crunch time, and Durham was sort of saying, well, why don't the players wear different boots? This was, and I'm as hard as anyone on players wearing the wrong boots. This wasn't a boot discussion. This was shifting turf underneath feet.
Yeah.
Now, some players handled it a little bit better. Bramble was, he was just skating on it. He didn't care. He just could stand up, whereas everyone else was falling over. But how does that happen? How does that happen?
You can't have 2 different surfaces on the same venue.
One's in a pocket.
Yeah, you got to wear certain boots in one area of the ground and certain boots in another area of the ground. What a disgrace! So they're going to have to do something. They're going to have to get that sorted this week. They've sent the lawnologist up there, your man from yours and Jared show during the
Jimmy
week.
Thwaites.
Jimmy Thwaites has gone up.
Lawonography.
If Jimmy Thwaites is not up there this week. For those that are unsure who Jimmy is, I'll play you some audio out of the next break to get you up to speed because Kane went 1-on-1 with Jimmy one night. It was riveting radio.
Fancy having a sports show that's talking about growing grass. That's just where I drew the line. Anyway, it's been very popular. But I mean, the AFL like a statement every now and then or a memo. Do you expect a memo on the grass? Surely.
Well, memos are too late. I mean, who ticks it off? How does that get ticked off? I mean, you have to do a safety check, don't you?
Well, I think they've got a crew going overseas, Kingy, just to check out
what they do in Green Bay. What do they do in Green Bay?
How do they grow the turf there? So
why don't we compare that to the EPL? We'll head over to Texas and then we'll come home via London. Although there's no one. I think we lost our man. Our man's he's not touring anymore, our man.
Josh Marnie. I just got a text.
Uh-oh.
From
problems?
From Tim Gossage.
The sausage?
Yeah.
What's he gone with?
So he just sent me a screenshot, nothing too dramatic. Talk to me about Melbourne and your thoughts on the same old going through that midfield, which you had that discussion on Saturday.
Oh yeah, it's sort of frustrating. I know they put Langford in for a couple of centre bounces in the first quarter, and I agree those centre bounces didn't go their way, but you can't just put him in for 2 and then take him out. I think you have to give the kid a run of 15 in one given game to find out, to give them the experience more than anything. I don't understand what Melbourne are doing with some of the youngsters. I understand the tough love to Windsor. You've got to play harder, and he's been a bit banged up. But Lindsay and Langford are the future. Get them in the middle now.
And probably Rivers as well.
Rivers, McPhee, a lot of them.
So then the question is then, what do you do with the others that they've committed long term to? Like, so what do you do with just Petrarca? Just play forward for
end of year. Worry about that. Well, yeah, play forward. Yeah, play forward. Don't take up.
Then what do you do with Oliver and Viney? Like, if they're not in the midfield, then they started Viney out, and it took a quarter for him to go. I thought he was impactful when he's actually having a real crack Viney, but you can't have Petrarca, Oliver, and Viney there together. So then, and they can't play anywhere else other than Petrarca. So what do you do with those two in particular?
You prioritise the youngsters in the middle. It doesn't.
But haven't they prioritised these guys with the? These are their stars. These are their $1 million stars.
Viney can play on a wing. Why can't Oliver and Petrarca split 50% forward, 50% on ball? I don't care what Oliver does as a forward. I'm trying to get minutes into Langford and Lindsay on ball. That's my win for the day. And if Oliver kicks one goal or has a 2-goal game every 3 weeks, fantastic. That's a steal, right?
It's shifted, hasn't it, quickly for Melbourne?
Well, but you can still reset. You can still reset again in the off season if you're not purging those players. If you're keeping them at your club, you can still go again next year. But you've got. We did this discussion last week. There's 1,000 minutes of footy left. You can't waste them. You got to punch as many minutes as you can into these kids to fast track their development. I've heard Sam Mitchell talk about this 60-game model for those youngsters at Hawthorn way back when, and look where they are now.
I think we're all sort of sitting there going, when's the sub going to be activated? It never came, and that's the explanation as to why, and you can't help but feel sorry for Nat Fyfe with what he's going through with his body. It's been a battle for him, but such a superstar of our game, and it's a sad ending the way that it is playing out, unfortunately, where you go to warm up and you can't go because your calf tightens up. So not ideal for Fremantle, who had a fight on their hands, didn't they, Kingy?
That was a good game. It was again a repeat of Ross exposing a manner in which Fremantle struggled to handle. He's shown the footy world for the second time in 2 months how you get Fremantle. And that's a significant challenge now for the coach's box at Fremantle to handle this. What are you doing that's going to shape the game back to your favour? It's a big question to pose them.
It is a big question, and I've got to say I've been hard on the two rucks, but the last quarter, wow, for 3 quarters it was a complete and utter disaster. So it's not a full concession here. Like they were destroyed.
Either concede or don't concede.
Well, I'm just about to say for 3 quarters it was a complete and utter disaster. They were destroyed from stoppage. But credit to them for not throwing in the towel and impacting the game in the last quarter in a big way, in a huge way. I've got to say, in the last quarter, both of them impacted the game in a huge way. So that's the...
Would they have won without the 2 rucks?
No.
Exactly.
Not in the... Well, they wouldn't have been...
The discussion, isn't it?
No, they wouldn't have been in the position where they were losing to a bottom 4 side.
Why wouldn't they have been in the position?
3-quarter time? Because Luke Jackson would have impacted far more as a sole ruckman than he did for 3 quarters, where he kicked the ball twice to 3-quarter time, and they were absolutely smashed from stoppage. It wouldn't have happened if he was the sole
Wouldn't have happened?
No.
The clearances when Jackson...
numbers.
I'll give you his numbers. The clearances when Jackson was in the ruck against Marshall were 22-5 in favour of the Saints.
Yeah, and now give me his numbers every time he's played when Sean Darcy hasn't.
But that doesn't affect his tap work against Marshall. It's a ruck contest. What's it got to do with who's standing next to him?
So you're telling me Luke Jackson is a better player when he's not rucking, eh? Is that what
I'm telling you that on the given game we're talking about on the weekend, Jackson was smashed in the ruck by Marshall.
So you disagree with champion data that they are a 64% better side with Jackson as a sole ruckman? You disagree with those numbers?
I do disagree with that.
Okay.
Yeah. Right. I don't think that's... How can you have that as a measure when you saw what happened in the last quarter yesterday when the big boys just took control? Where does that come up on the champion data 64-point ranking?
Well, for 3 quarters, it was an unmitigated disaster, both of them. But so it's the combo of both of them. It's not
they
just one or the other.
No, I think there's a deeper discussion there. I think that's a bit shallow, that the evidence there or the analysis. I think you look at the way that Ross set the game up with volume around the stoppage. It made it extremely difficult for them to get their game going with Sarong and Brayshaw and those types and Bolton, and they were hammered. They were just out-hunted. So Marshall was terrific. Look, it was a great game. It still leaves a lot of questions with the Fremantle situation, but a game they just had to win. Do they make it, Cornesy? So they're on 10 wins.
Yes.
So to get them to 13 first, they've got to beat the Eagles, Carlton, and Port Adelaide. You'd think they'd beat. There's 13.
Yep.
They've got to win.
They make it.
They make it.
I mean, it's them or the Giants. One of those two are going to miss out now, I think that's where it sits. So 50-50. We'll wait and see. Let's get into this. Now, this is our new segment that we debuted last week. We thought it was original, but there's been some pushback on that it's been done.
It's Simo's.
It's definitely
I said,
been done.
we'll just introduce some listeners to it.
I want to start with Alistair Clarkson with this.
They've come off a bye, and we've come off a pretty strong campaign. We were away for a couple of weeks and then had the Carlton game last week at the G. So they just look to be covering the ground a hell of a lot better, and so we don't want to dig too deep into it and be too forensic on it. We look at the block of work that's been done over the last 6 or 8 weeks and think that we're making some progress, but they came up against a good side today that played some pretty good footy.
My advice would be to absolutely dig deep into it and forensically analyse what went on. Let's not brush over it, surely. Let's not put it down to a couple of games that we sold in Perth and them having a week off. I think there's just a little bit more to it than they were covering the ground better than us.
I'll be thinking of getting CSI in, to be honest. I'd be going straight through her.
Get me the biggest magnifying glass you've ever got, and absolutely
Scully and what was the other one? Scully
Mulder.
Mulder. I'm going to get
dig
Scully,
into it
Scully
very
Mulder
deeply.
down there on Wednesday.
How could you just? You can't be brushing that. Now maybe that's just his public message, but I would hope that they are looking at this as analytically as they possibly can to work out why they started like that, because there shouldn't be an excuse. I don't think any of us expected them to win, but it shouldn't have been an absolute smashing. So that would just be a bit of fiction there, I would have thought, to start. Kingy?
Yeah, good start. Simon Goodwin, he went with this. Read their first quarter.
You sit here with mixed emotions as a senior coach. Like, that first quarter was, unacceptable, in terms of our ability to win the ball, our ability to pressure the ball, our ability to get our hands on the ball. And Gold Coast were unbelievable, but we were miles off early in the game, and clearly that was the game.
So the answer to that was get the kids out of there, get the old blokes back in, get the boys who can win it but can't use it back in there, please. Come on. A bit more trust.
They've got some big issues at the end of the year, Melbourne. I don't think any club has as many issues facing them from a personnel point of view and from a coaching question than the Melbourne Footy Club. I wonder if safe space.
Friday. Can I keep that for Friday with you? Let's do
Yes.
that Friday. The biggest off-season decision for your club. That won't get taken between now and Friday, will it?
No, now that you've reserved it. So if anyone reheats that soup, let me tell you think Kingy went hard on Brad Lloyd this morning? He's got nothing on anyone who reheats his soup. Clear out, give him the next 5 minutes, get him in the recording studio.
My man, the microwave on legs over here, the chief reheater. What about Dean Cox on the SCG surface? What do you think of this?
Hang on, just before we get, does Safe Space still think that Melbourne have been consistently brilliant? The tweet that was in the Dumshires and Hall of Fame a few weeks ago?
Well, we've got a few in the Hall of Fame now.
Okay.
Now that we think about it, hey, that should be in there, shouldn't it?
And does your boy Jack still think that Tom Lynch should be a target for Gold Coast?
Well, he might miss a couple of weeks early on.
All right, now let's get to Dean Cox.
Get to Dean Cox.
There's been some challenges with the surface throughout the year, but I really looking at other things. That's where I sort of spend my time. Things I can try and control.
Yeah,
tough one for Dean to be asked about, because he's got to defend his home patch, and he can't be critical of those running the football club in the stadium because that's their home ground. But he can't also say, no, it was perfect. We love it. So it's a really tough spot for him to be in, don't you think?
Well, he knows what's coming. Freo are going to be disappointed if they're put up to that sort of surface again. So they're going to say, do you have to move the game? Does he have to have another venue? So he's trying to get ahead of that without buying in. It was a nice move. I thought he did well. Did you think he handled it okay?
Couldn't have handled it better.
Yeah.
Could not have handled it better.
He wouldn't have got a text from Andrew Pridham.
Definitely not.
No.
And my boy Tommy Chadwick would have been standing right next to him saying that was perfectly handled.
Yeah.
I mean, they would have been briefed about it knowing the question was coming. So, tick, tick, tick. Ross Lyon is going to feature, I would think, regularly in this little segment. Let's have a listen to him post-game yesterday.
I think you just win the ball and make the tackle. We didn't win the ball well, a couple of fumbles. It's often, everyone's talking abstract terms, what went on. It's about the basics. Make the tackle, don't fumble, hit your target. That's what happens a bit.
Abstract terms. Has anyone in the history of football used more abstract terms than Ross?
You know when Ross finishes, right? I want someone to do I want Village to do a movie on Ross and just take us through all of the lingo and all of the events that have happened and he's just such an entertaining guy. I know people say, you stick up for him. I find him fascinating. I find him entertaining.
He is.
I'll tell you what though, they coached the lights out of yesterday.
Yeah, he did. Again.
And he won't get any credit for it because
Freo.
it's a loss. I understand you've got to get those results. But the young Viking, my God, how good was he yesterday?
Yeah, he was. He's something else.
Could he win the Rising Star? Could he win the Rising Star in the space of 8 weeks?
I don't think so. But what the Saints need is bums on seats and players that are going to put those bums on seats. They want Guernseys flying off the shelf. Whose Guernsey were you buying before this year? I'm buying his now.
They got some good kids.
Hopefully Filippo comes. I'm buying his if Filippo gets going when his body. Yeah,
Wilson.
Wilson. I'm not sure if I'm buying just a sort of a skinny wingman's Guernsey who uses the ball night. I'm not sure I'm buying that Guernsey, but the guys that fly at the footy and are as airily as brave as what he was yesterday.
What if I gave it to you for
definitely
nothing?
doing
Would
that.
you wear it?
Yep,
Okay.
I would.
I'll talk to my people.
Matty Nix spoke about Tom Lynch's brain fade yesterday.
That's the sort of stuff that as a coach you want to see more of. When our opposition are frustrated and angry, it means we're doing something right. A great matchup, a really important one. As I mentioned, Lynch is one of the best forwards in the competition, so great result.
Not anymore. Was one of the best forwards. Well, he was. That's a lie. Isn't it? What would he be in your top? What would he be in your top 15 key forwards right now, Tom Lynch? Not one of the best.
Not really why he's there to be one of the...
No, but Matty Nix said he's one of the best.
Yeah,
I'm
Nixie,
just
come on,
saying
man. Come on.
It's fact or fiction. That's not
Okay,
fiction.
all right. What did he really want to say, though?
It was disgraceful. Dog act.
Exactly.
That's what he wanted to say.
Just say it, Nixie.
I know. He's still filtered, Nixie. I look forward to the day
Do you still have those same reservations you had 12 months ago about him?
Nixie?
You were whinging about him extending his contract and...
There was no
disgrace.
need. There was no need to do it.
Are you happy that they did now?
Do
you think it's worked? The stability and
it didn't last year.
Do you think they re-signed him last year?
Yeah, the start of last year before round one.
Do you think that it's worked?
I don't think it's had any impact on their performance this year. The contract that he signed in March last year is having zero impact on the form of this group in June the following year.
Didn't help provide stability and the fact you can go.
He had stability. He had that year.
He can go and sell. He can go and sell to players who are weighing up their future. Yep, I've been re-signed. They've committed to me long term. Come to us because I am going to be here.
Let's wait and see which players they land.
If you get one wrong every now and then, it's okay to say I might have gone a bit hard.
It's a bit early. I mean, you're the king of don't worry about home and away form. We'll talk about it in finals. So let's just hold.
You were critical of their mids playing forward, guys like Rochelle playing in the forward line.
When?
Last year.
They're mids playing forward?
Yes.
He's not a mid. Rochelle's not a mid.
He's what you were talking about last year.
No, I was critical of the fact
Don't make me get audio. Don't make me.
They had the same crew running through the midfield.
Don't make me get audio.
Matty Crouch and the crew that were very similar. Now, it was underperformance of the highest order, Adelaide, last year. Now, it looks pretty good now, but we'll wait and see. There's a long way to go, Mr. Finals are everything.
A retrospective.
Mr. Every finals are everything.
He just got clipped for 2024.
Yeah, well, rightly so. What have they done?
New levels.
What have Adelaide done?
What did they do last year? Fix that.
No, what have they done for the last 7?
Fix that
geez,
now.
You're easily pleased.
They're flying. They're low flying.
They're low flying. What, because they beat up on Richmond?
Low flying.
They beat up on Richmond?
Are you hearing?
You're
Is my mic working?
You're easily pleased. Wow. I'll tell you who is flying, and that's Collingwood. Craig McRae spoke after the game.
Yeah, we win the second half by 37 points. It's a good indication, and we keep the opposition to 58 points. You know, you take the ladder position out of it, and you go, oh, that's not a bad performance. But again, I sit here and we reflect on the game as opportunity to improve. One of the things I said, the last things I said to the boys is, we come here for 4 points. We didn't come here for style points. Got the job done, but we've got work to do.
Pretty good.
Style points. I like
Pretty
it.
good.
New terminology.
Pretty good answer. Okay, the Fireball 5 power rankings for Milwaukee, and I've made a seismic shift.
What have you done?
Seismic. I think I've got a new number 1. And they've come, would you believe they've come from outside my 5 to number 1?
Hang on.
Hang on. I've actually had to sit back.
Treat
and
this section with the respect that it
I
deserves.
absolutely am. And compose myself and really, I've put a lot of thought into this over the weekend. I don't think you can have a list as good as what the Western Bulldogs have and not be the new premiership favourite. So for me, I just want to say it's taken me some time to get there. What are we going into round 17? I have a new premiership favourite, and with the list and the talent that Sam Power have developed at the Dogs, and they've just found Fraser and Riley Sanders, and not that they found him because he's a top 10 pick, but he's performing well now. There's stars and superstars everywhere. Look at Jay Clark's top 50. I think you'll find, as I've been saying for the last month, they have 3 top 5 players in the one team and the most valuable commodity in the game since Wayne Carey. So the Dogs are 1. Sorry to take a little bit of time to get there. They're 1. They're my new premiership favourites.
Awesome.
Brisbane, Hawthorn, Collingwood and Geelong. I don't have Adelaide, and I would have loved to have had Gold Coast in there, but they just slip out as well. What about you?
No, not too much change from me. Collingwood at the top, Geelong second, Brisbane third, Adelaide definitely in at 4, and the Dogs, I am surprised that you've got them so high, but I've got them at 5 at the moment.
Okay, no Hawthorn for Kingy
No.
in his Fireball 5 yet.
Can you start taking this seriously? Because Milwaukee are putting in good dollars to sponsor
I've
this
never
section.
taken a
And I-
segment
I'm being serious.
more seriously. Honestly, I thought about it for so long, and I was watching them Friday night going, everywhere I look, there is star-studded teams.
I know what you're doing here. I know
Not
what
at
you're
all.
doing.
I'm not doing anything other
You've
than
seen
just
my
calling it as
Freo
I
move,
see
and
it.
you've upped to me with the Dogs, is what you've
Just
done.
think it's taken
Hey,
me. No, it's taken me a while to get there,